shit, it does it for me. Big dick Ben. Big dick Ben. Ah, fuck you, dude.
Hello, everyone. How are you getting on today? I am joined by Molly, who works on a variety of different elements. We've had a good chat for the last 20, 25 minutes. Possibly some of it that probably should have been on this element, but we got started early as we started talking about a lot of things that are different. Molly has joined us pretty early today. It's 4:30 over there?
It's 5 now, but yeah.
5 o'clock. So 5 o'clock over in Nebraska. So she's joined us today to talk about some brand strategies. Particularly, we are talking about ideal clients and authenticity with brands. So just to start to introduce, so I am Michael of E2 Studios. If anyone is new for the first time today, I will look at website development. We generally work on kind of niche website-based systems where we look at automation, process improvement, workflow, loads and loads of fun stuff like that. And then we also get involved a lot right now with kind of search engine optimization and some elements of GDPR compliance, which Molly and I were just having a brief discussion about before. Molly, I'll let you fully introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Molly. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a brand strategist. I work with neurodivergent entrepreneurs to make shit happen in their businesses. Most of the time we're working on bringing the passion back to business versus continuing down a hole that you don't like. So we typically work on whole brand strategy, marketing, website, and graphic design. So pretty much a done for you experience. So what people need, we help with.
Sounds good. So we've got some similarities of what we do. We don't really touch in anything in terms of the branding per se. It's we may do a few elements, but in terms of like strategy, it's not what we work on. And we'll generally work with other people that have that kind of more skill set. We work a lot more on the code and the development side and kind of the stuff that goes behind the scenes and stuff like that for systems.
Yes.
But yeah, it was nice what you were saying just then about, trying to get people out of that kind of hole of where they've maybe even become where they didn't really envisage to be when they started out their business.
Yes.
I am possibly one and maybe the same where I'm fairly fortunate that I started this business and it's something that I still enjoy doing. I mean, We've not been running very long. Maybe it's not ground me down yet. We've been running for 2 years. So we started in April 2020. Decided to start a business at the start of a global pandemic, which is always a good time to start.
Perfect time.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have teetered between our offerings over the course of the last 2 years. We started with something quite specific. Then as we started to bring staff on, we went really wide in what we were offering. And then we were like, actually, we don't like 50% of the stuff we're doing now. So we said, I'm not doing it anymore. We'll change it and we'll refocus back on what we started this business for and to do. Very, very briefly, we were talking just before we got started now about people who have got a business and they are struggling to manage their time or sometimes client expectations of their time and running that 24/7 grind. Now, I think we've all probably been there at one stage or another. We're kind of moving away from that now, which is great. We give people more information saying, actually, that'll be Monday now, rather than I'll do it at Sunday at 8 p.m. So you want to go a little bit more into how that looks or what you usually find people are struggling with in that area?
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I work with neurodivergent entrepreneurs most of the time. So time blindness is a thing, where you're like, oh, I'll get that done in 5 minutes. And it's really like a 5-hour task. And so a lot of times it's not understanding your own expectations of a task. Be like, I was notorious for this. I'd be like, oh, I just got to build a website today. Like, who the hell does that? Like, I'll just build the whole thing today. No, that takes a lot more time than that. And so a lot of the entrepreneurs that come and work with me, they either have taken on too many clients or just the right amount of clients, but the wrong type of clients. And so there's just like constant pushback and just distaste for what they're doing because it's not really in what they wanted. Like you had talked about, you had expanded and you were like, oh no, we're not doing that. Like, let's roll back. And so a lot of times it's typically they don't have like a project management software like Asana or Monday or Trello. And they don't have a CRM. So they don't have Dosado or Honeybook or Keep or something to help manage that. And they've never automated anything. And so when you talked about automation, I was like, yay, because that's always something that we're integrating is like, you have a workflow, regardless if you've consciously thought about it, you have a workflow. And we need to figure out what parts of those workflow you don't need to do because it's way cheaper to pay $25 a month to Zapier and $30 to Honeybook and, you know, free Asana than it is to pay someone 1 hour. So especially if you're looking for skilled, experienced personnel. And so like helping people like get past the scarcity mindset to pay for the systems and build out the systems and be like, look, you've saved yourself X amount of hours every day because now you're not manually connecting all of these things. You're not manually looking for these things. And so we kind of find time there, but we also help people like look at, okay, when you're onboarding somebody, are you telling them when you're going to talk to them? Are you telling them when you're going to email them back? Are you telling them how many days prior to them needing something they have to notify you? Are you setting this routine of you are not at their beck and call? Because half the time, I think I have a social media post somewhere, like half the time our clients aren't trying to be assholes. Like they're not trying to manipulate us. They just literally don't know where the line is and we need to draw that. And so helping people kind of figure out what they want as their business boundaries or their personal boundaries within their business and helping them draw those lines. And we like, I send people to the client experience guide that I wrote a lot of times because it just like walks people through how to map that out. I'm a firm believer in sticky notes. I have them everywhere. There's a whole case of them right here. But just like helping people figure out like, what do I like? Like, what am I doing? And what do I hate? Okay, I'm going to throw that sticky note away or put it in a pile for someone else to do. And that's kind of how we regain control of things is really look at, you know, what do I enjoy doing? What do I have to do myself? I may not enjoy it, but it physically has to be me right now.
Yeah.
And what can I delegate out? And sometimes delegation is an automation system and sometimes it's a person. So it just really depends. So.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think there's a lot of it is particularly with newer businesses or people that are trying to make sure that they are cost effective and think they have to do everything all those 24 hours and whatnot. I mean, we went through a very similar journey. I think pretty much every business does, particularly when they're starting out and there's not an abundance of cash flow to get started on all those elements. You know, we didn't use any kind of systems, some of the ones that you're talking about, Trello's or whatever else. We now use ClickUp for pretty much all of ours. And it's also good because we also give clients access to the projects as well. So they can also see the project path and the deadlines about what's going on. And, you know, you were talking about before about trying to identify things that maybe sometimes you just don't want to do. Sometimes you're not great at. You know, we finally decided about maybe 7 months ago to have our accountant do our payroll because each month I was doing the payroll. and I'm not a payroll expert. And then I find out, oh, actually, we've done the pensions wrong for 4 months. So he's had to fix those. But now it's in the right hands, and it's no longer a stress every month. I'm like, oh, I got to do payroll again.
Right.
And you know, I wouldn't even say it was expensive, but we started this business with me and my business partner started this, and we put in £50 each into this business to start it. So that's what, like $35. It's not a lot. $35.
Oh no, it's the other way.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
It's like 85.
Yeah, $85.
Yeah.
So we didn't put a lot in to start this business, particularly when we have to register the company and buy server space and everything else. So money was tight definitely at the start, but we've decided, we've grown that, and now we have got resources like ClickUp or like utilizing the accountant or whatever else, or delegating tasks where, if there's so many clients, I can't handle all of them on my own. So now some of my staff will also, deal with some of the client elements and liaise with them to go through the projects. But I do find there's a lot of people that there is a worry and a scare about pushing those things outside of your control area and doing it. And I think there's a lot of that where there's a lot of worry. So I think it's really good. And the way you work with people, particularly people that are maybe, neurodiverse or, may not have, I guess, the same mindset as other people where they are looking through the exact same kind of spectrum or anything else. And that's definitely a real good way to work on it as well.
Yeah. And like when you're talking about like how delegation is great, like, or the cost in the beginning, that's kind of why I'm like, just use Google Suite. Like just use, Asana is free, or, Trello's free, like trying to find as many free systems to start from the beginning so that as you grow, you can always upgrade.
Yeah, I think we started on the free version of ClickUp. We started on the free version of like a password managed system. And now, because we've grown and we've got more people, we've had to upgrade them because it doesn't really allow you to put 100 million people on there for the same package. But we've grown that slowly to make sure that we're in a comfortable state to do that. But we kind of, we were talking about automation very, very briefly before. Now, obviously, we utilize those tools for some of our elements now. Other parts where things like billing, so there's obviously systems like Xero or Free Agent or all the other ones, and we built our own instead because, well, the good part is we're coders, so we don't have to pay another person to do that element. It's our time, but but we wanted it to do something quite specific that the other applications don't do. So we ended up doing it that way, and it actually integrates into our kind of other systems that we utilize for our clients. So we look at automation. We look at it when we speak to a client. Full automation is really expensive, particularly if it's very client specific. That's why these services that we were just talking about are relatively low cost. So we're talking £25 per month per person, however it works, or $30 per person, or however the money calculates in there. We go through that stage, but we forget that those people are selling it to 1 million users or 400,000 users. So it stacks up. They get their money that way. They're getting theirs over time. But if we're building it for one client, it's still got to have the same systems and engineering in place, but you're only doing it for one set of client and you're not reselling it. So it ends up being a lot more expensive. But it really depends on, I guess, what the needs are. And, we speak to clients. Sometimes we'll say, we don't think it's effective for us to build the system for you. Maybe use this instead. Or other times it might be, we'll use this and then we'll build something to automate the 40% that you actually want it to do, or whatever else it looks like. But, there's definitely elements there where it's about, I guess, managing the right costs, moving it at the right time, but trying to identify them as soon as possible before you get to the stage of doing everything. It makes it harder to, move them out of your domain.
Right. And that's something like, even with like rebrands, we talk about the same thing. Like you really have to plan these things ahead of time. Like you can't be like, oh shit, I just grew 10 clients and I have no more time. I need to automate like yesterday. Like these things don't happen overnight. Like we got, and they're expensive. Like you need a budget for things. Like as a business owner, like, okay, I see I'm getting some clients, this automation system is in my future. Let me budget for this. Let me figure out who I want to work with. Let me figure out kind of who is the best fit for me and how much money am I willing to spend to get the gains that I like. That all needs to plan out. And so that's why I'm always like in the beginning, if you have the time, plan out your workflows ahead of time, because then it's easier to tweak. It's less expensive to automate because you've already started these things. And I love, like, this feeds into the authenticity piece, that you are like upfront with your clients. Like, this is not the best fit for you. Like, this is probably a better fit. We can help you with these things. Like, hearing businesses do that always makes me happy, because it means that nothing is cookie cutter. And I'm really against cookie cutter business strategies. It means that you're actually looking at them and their business, and that makes me a little happy.
I imagine, particularly for the kind of clients that you work with, cookie cutter does not work anyway.
No. A lot of times they've purchased a whole bunch of coaching programs or business strategy programs or templates or all sorts of stuff, and it just doesn't work. Like, there's like bits and pieces that work, but like they don't know how to make all of those bits and pieces come together into a cohesive picture. And because like the neurodivergent umbrella is so vast, like, and everybody, it's all spectrum. So like one person might be really good at this, but not so great at this. And so we have to like help kind of build in things to help through all of those difficulties. Yeah. And so like, some people might be great doing this, but then like execution and executive function, no, like that. We need a system that literally says the next step is this. Yeah. And then they can click it off on ClickUp or Asana, you know, and the next step is this, and go one by one. Where other people, it's like, just do this. And they're like, okay. And then they can like go through the whole thing.
I feel sometimes I definitely need the first one. I'll get like too warped on something or like focused. And then I just like, sometimes the list helps. You were talking about sticky notes and, you know, your love for those and having them all over. We don't have sticky notes because we're too lazy to write. or more like our handwriting is so bad, I don't think I'd be able to reread the sticky note. Which is probably why we use things like ClickUp for some of it. But we do also have a whiteboard in the office as well, which is more for the stuff that we have more of an immediate need for. And we want to just, you know, cross off when we've got to that juncture. And it's more that kind of focal point on there. Again, we have to kind of work together to work out what we wrote, but it's there.
Yeah, I get that. Oh, the glare on my glasses is so bad. Okay. But yeah, so I feel that like for the longest time, I was like, there's sticky notes everywhere and I can't. So I have this whiteboard, but my kid just kept coming in and erasing it, which was just so not helpful. So we definitely use Asana. And so my team members are also neurodivergent. And that's why we use Asana, because it populates information in different ways. So it's the same information, like, one of us needs to see board view. I need every detail. I need the list view with all the details. It needs to be like a little spreadsheet. And then another person looks at it in time view. So like we all get to look at it the way that works for our brains, but it's all the same information. And so that has helped. And then we use Marco Polo too. So I don't know if you've ever used Marco Polo. It's like video walkie-talkies on your phone.
Okay.
So you send like little, if you've heard of Voxer.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's essentially Voxer with video. And so we use that. So like all of our clients have channels in Marco Polo. And so for social media, like they'll just Marco Polo us their social media, like rants. They're like, I was thinking about this and I need to have a post about this. And so we just have these collections of like video content that we can like pull from. And but it works for people who are like in the moment, like because their brains don't shut off. They can just record it and we come back to it later, and they don't have to think about, okay, I need to save it to this drive because this, and I need to put it in this tracker. Like it just keeps it organized. Yeah.
I do find that. I mean, I haven't really seen it happen too much in like my views and whatnot, but you see it a lot on television where people like dictate into the the dictaphone and then kind of play them back later on. And obviously that's quite similar, but obviously a pre-recorded section where it's just online rather than having to have a physical device to go back and play through.
Right.
I'd probably forget to click it, to be honest. Last time I did this live, so Ailey does a lot of the managing of these, but last time I forgot to press the go live button for 10 minutes. So I just talk and Karen ramble through and I forget to press the buttons. But we're there now and we're in a good place. We are live this time.
Yes. I probably would have messaged you like, hey, you might want to click the button.
So you were talking about before about, authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to explain more about what that looks like for brands now, or what you feel that you find is maybe sometimes unauthentic with a lot of businesses?
Yeah. So a lot of people feel like they can disassociate themselves as a person from their business entity. And that's really not the case, because your personal values, your personal beliefs are always going to bleed into what you do, regardless if you mean to make that happen or not. It's just, our personal biases are, all the different things that make us psychologically who we are. And so as people try and disassociate from their business, they lose passion for their business because everything that's important to them has now been stripped. And so they kind of end up with this like black and white cold thing. And they're like, that doesn't represent me. It doesn't represent what I believe in. And it's not people I want to work with for whatever reason. I mean, and so when we start to bring back what makes them who they are and who they like to work with, what fills them up, we find that the passion grows, and then their business grows because they easily can show up and represent that business. So for example, one of my clients was doing everything they could to build their business, but none of it represented who they wanted to work with or themselves. So they had this business model that was kind of just dead. It wasn't moving, wasn't doing anything. And we had a conversation and I was like, well, who's your ideal client? Who do you want to work with? And they're like, well, I really love also neurodivergent folks who are gamers and in the queer community. And I was like, they don't live on Instagram. They live on Reddit. They live on, Discord. So you need to show up there. Like, you don't need to show up in the same platforms that mainstream people are looking at, because she was like in super nitty gritty, like gamer, tabletop role play. And she gamified everything about her business. And so I was like, you're going to have way more success on Reddit. So she tried it. And at first it really, really worked well. And she was able to realize as she did that process and bring back more of her own nerdy self. And like, we rewrote her copy to be more gamer focused. Her packages were like very hinting into game world. And now her branding is all like 8-bit pixels and like just a lot of things that really made her feel more comfortable, but it also connected to her ideal client in a way where they felt more comfortable. And that allowed her to be like, oh, this is still not quite what I want, but we're getting there. But she felt more passion. And so the journey continued. So when I talk about authenticity, I try and explain it in a way, like there's a difference between being authentic and being yourself and discriminating against a specific group of people. Like this is who I am. You either love me or you don't. Like, this is me, whatever. And people self-eliminate, like, that's just not my person. This isn't the person that would work best for my business. That's very different than being like, I only want to work with these people, and these people, I'm just going to shoo everybody else away. Like, they're selective. Like, I don't think we're going to be a good fit because these are things, and you present that to a person and they self-eliminate, which is very different than being like, I only do these things, So like helping people bring back their casual speak in their copy. Like if you don't speak professionally when you're with clients, like I could go on a tangent about professionalness for a long time, but we're not going there right now. But like they don't use formal English or whatever language in their emails or when they talk, then we probably don't want formal things on your website. We try and make sure that people are like incorporating the same references they use when they're talking to people in their website copy or their social media or their branding. Like for me, I talk about Star Trek all the time. Like every business lesson I have is always like, so in this episode of Star Trek Next Generation, so it's always a reference. So we use a lot of Star Trek or Star Wars, because I also use Star Wars a lot, references in my copy. And so when I was working with my copywriter, she was like, we're just going to call your strategy sessions hyperdrive sessions. And I was like, that sounds great. And it sounds like me and my clients, people would get that. They'd know what it is, So it's just bringing the pieces of you that are also going to connect with those ideal clients so that they can be like, oh, these are my people. Because then you just have less unnecessary discovery calls. You have less time spent on people that are never going to actually work with you in the end. You have people that will follow you on social, but that allows them to learn from your free content and like move into a paid content. And it's just a better connection point. So
yeah, no, that's really good. And I like what you're talking about with the kind of bringing in the personal within the business as well. I mean, I know a lot of our clients came to us through the people who are in the business rather than like we don't generally get a lot of people going to our site, which is fine. It's more there for, I don't know, an additional part of a portfolio or to give the people that we're already talking to a link to say this might be more of what you're looking for, or similar to what you were saying before, some of the free content, the blog posts or podcasts or whatever else that we're working on. But most of the people come to talk to us and work it from there because we've got, I guess, similarities. We also work with a few different streams at the moment as well, from the Twitch side of things. But ours is still somewhat diverse because we work on automation. It's automation on all elements, not like specific to gaming. We do it for corporate kind of ones. But yeah, there's definitely a different approach the way I talk to some of my clients than others, because some of them are a lot more like kind of gamified, which is where I love gaming. Pretty much everyone in the office is into gaming actually. So we're all in the similar guys to that part. But yeah, some of it will be just very much like, here's a quick YouTube video. You want to have a look at this or whatever else. Another one, it's more like, hi, John, here's your blah, blah. And there's definitely different approaches to different types of clients. But, we've got different pages for different, I guess, avenues, and they are structured different as well because there is a different approach to the different types of, clients that we're working with. So, what do you expect to, I guess, understand from when people are looking for, I guess, ideal clients, or when people are more focused on them? What's probably the biggest thing, other than the kind of the personal touch? What should be the approach that people should be really looking for to really ensure that they are focused on that ideal client setting?
So one of my big soapbox moments is that there's never one thing. Like in coding, you need several layers of code in order to actually get what you want. It's kind of like that with ideal clients. We can focus this here, we can focus this here, but we need all of them together to really make something. And so I never want to say this is the one thing you need to do. I just always want to caveat that I can't, just do one thing. But I think a lot of it comes from how do you want to serve people? And is it something that they want? We've worked with some clients in the past where it's they're like, I want to build this service. And I'm like, that's great. But your ideal client that you say you want to work with doesn't want that. That's not part of their journey. you can't have a high ticket item to somebody who wants to delegate, but you only want to work with the one person. Like, they don't want that. So how can you work with those people and do the things that you enjoy? Okay, you could work with their team, or like, how could we figure that out? For me, I think it comes like when we are working with clients to help them identify their ideal clients and like what products and services would be best based off of the business owner's needs and the ideal client's needs, is we're always looking at like what part of the journey and what is their psychological status? Like, what are they struggling with? What do they need to overcome? And what mindset shifts need to happen in order for them to be in the space that you need them to be? Because a lot of times website copy is like going, I know you're struggling with this. I'm going to give you some fact that's going to change your perspective. I'm going to help you through how you change that perspective. And so in order to be able to be convincing with copy or social media posts or a book or whatever, we have to know the psychological status of the person and where they want to be. And so I think the reliance on psychology is probably the biggest thing, and making sure that you like understand what are they experiencing right now. So like a life coach would need to know, am I working with somebody am I the first coach this person is ever going to hire? And if that's the case, then I can't work on like hire self, hire whatever. I need to work on, it's okay to have boundaries. Like, as a life coach, you have to understand that. If you are a, graphic designer and you want to get paid $50,000 per project, you probably aren't going to market to new businesses. Like, those are the things like we're trying to help people understand, is like, these are the people you want to serve. These are the people that fill you up. Are those people actually going to do the things that you need them to do? And how can we build something that fills you up, but also makes you money? So like for myself, I love working with new businesses and helping them establish things, but I have to pay the bills at the end of the day. So I have built out like downloadable items that people can purchase on the website. We have medium tier products to help people as they transition to big business. And then we have high ticket items. That way I can work with the people that I love working with as they grow, and we can transition them. And we try and just help people figure out ways that they can do that within their own business. Make that help?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think, we definitely have, I'm not going to go into too much, but particular projects that we really enjoy. Definitely a lot in the gaming world, just because it's fun and quite different than some of the other parts. I don't know if you see, just before we have like a little intro video, there's like a spin wheel on the go. We were building all those systems for that streamer. And it is both extremely nerve-wracking when we push something live, because he generally has around about 14,000 people watching him at any time. So, and we don't really get a lot of testing time because he streams 7 days a week. So, yeah, when it goes live, it is pretty much live for the first time. And it's very much like, oh, please work. Oh, please work. So
please make sure that semicolon is in the right place.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's pretty much where it's at. So it is extremely nerve-wracking to an extent, but as soon as that trigger hits and you see the end result do what it's supposed to do, it's so much more, I guess, easily gratifyingly, a place to be, because you're actually seeing like 14,000 people watch it as well. It's not like, we put so many websites live and there is obviously users on them, but we don't see those users. It's behind the scenes. We might get a few like contact forms, whatever, but in here we've got like streams of chat talking about it, and you can kind of see those elements, or you get different ideas when they're talking. You can find out actually what might be good is pretty much these, because you can see a few people talking about it. So there's different elements. So those ones we really enjoy, or anything where it's got kind of like an end goal where we know like, oh, X has happened now. We can really see, it's coming to fruition. We spend a lot of time, particularly with businesses where they are looking at trying to automate what you were discussing before. And maybe they've got a budget where they want to do it internally. Sometimes, as you said, people don't actually know what can be automated. They've never been in that world, and they've been doing it for X years and just never thought of another way. We often go into businesses and spend the time there, whether it's sometimes just a Zoom call, or sometimes we'll actually go over physically and spend a day there, and we'll kind of oversee what's being done. And then we might come up with solutions saying, actually, this part you can automate, this part you can automate, this part you'll have to keep as it is. Or whatever else it might be. That's what we kind of spend a lot of our time doing, is really reviewing what is the best way. And sometimes it's cost saving, sometimes it is just ease of mind, sometimes it's a higher quality, because obviously you don't have human error when you've got a computer doing it. As long as it's programmed correctly and the right rules are in place, then it's going to follow the same designated path every time. So that's what kind of we really look at on there. So we very much briefly discussed it before. Particularly, you were talking about one of your clients that has a focus within gaming. They were looking at people that were potentially also neurodiverse, people that were in the kind of LGBTQ communities, all those elements. Now, right now, and we talk about authenticity and sometimes people not being authentic. Now, I've already seen all over LinkedIn and other social medias in regards to Pride Month. There's a lot of people already talking about brands do not do this in Pride Month because the rest of your brand doesn't fit that mold or whatever else. So, do you want to give us some information on where you're at with the Pride Month and, talking about, I guess, businesses' authenticity in those areas?
Yeah. So the biggest thing with Pride Month, or really any kind of month that is focused on a specific group of people, you have to do it all year round. Like, it's not like, hi, it's Pride Month, let me show up and be performative about I love the queer community, when your actions throughout the rest of the year show that you do not love the queer community. Like, that does not work. But like, for me, we talk about, I am queer, so therefore it doesn't mean that I always do it right. To be fair, doesn't mean that I don't screw it up sometimes. But so we talk about inclusivity and the queer community throughout the year. Like, that's typical for us. So being like, hey, it's Pride Month, like, remember how this started, remember Stonewall, like, all of those things make sense for our brand because that's who we are. And we use inclusive language all the time. We take the actions and the steps to do that. Could we improve? Probably, because everybody can always improve how they're treating other humans. But so we had, did you see the thing about the Juneteenth ice cream in Walmart?
No. Okay.
So things are a mess here in America. And that's the simplest way to describe that. And this is the second year that Juneteenth is a recognized federal holiday for us. And Walmart decided they were going to capitalize on this and create a Juneteenth ice cream, write Juneteenth on it, make it culturally appropriated information all over it, and literally ripped off a Black woman's ice cream flavor and like tried to sell it themselves. That's performative. That is not what we want to do. That is the bad idea. What they could have done is featured a whole bunch of Black creatives and business owners and been like, Juneteenth is this month, and we're supporting the Black community through these products. That would have been a much better action to show support for the community and celebrate in a way that makes sense to them. Because it's I keep using American holidays, which is not a great reference. Like, we have Memorial Day here, which was last week. And it's I don't want to use the word celebration. It's to recognize those who have fallen in battle.
Yeah.
But people keep going, Happy Memorial Day. And like the sentiment gets kind of lost between those two things. And so just like with Pride, like you can say it's Pride Month, but saying like Happy Pride kind of can fall flat if you don't also recognize like Stonewall and how it started and rioting to gain traction and the rights that people have today, which are still not to the level that they need to be here. And so the biggest thing is like, if you are going to recognize holidays, regardless of what it is, it could be Kwanzaa, Christmas, Hanukkah, like anything. If you aren't talking about those subjects throughout the year, like it might come off weird for you to randomly be like, let's talk about this random cultural significant thing.
It's very sometimes clear that people are just capitalizing on the trend or what's in at that specific stage.
Right. And like I tend to never acknowledge giant holidays or anything because I'm not religious. So religious holidays are not a thing that I celebrate. So it'd be really weird for me to be like, Happy Passover. Like that would make no sense. I don't even think happy is the word that you put with Passover. I don't know. But I just don't, because most of the time my audience is also not typically religious. So it would feel really weird to identify one specific holiday that I don't even celebrate. And those that are religious are from so vast a different background. Like I would not remember to acknowledge every single one. And so rather than accidentally making people feel left out, I just omit those holidays. Like if somebody says something, I'll be like, oh yeah, isn't it whatever holiday? If I know that they celebrate that holiday, I will recognize that for them, because acknowledging their experience is part of my brand.
Yeah.
But remembering every single holiday, not part of my brand. But we do talk about Pride a lot because of the queer community and that a lot of our clients are queer. Our team has a lot of queer folks on it. But yes, performative holidays are not good. They don't look good. No. And they don't make people feel good. I think there was like a sandwich company in the UK at one point that did an LGBTQ pride packaging. And like they made a sandwich that was labeled LGBTQ and it was like lettuce, gorgonzola. Like, I don't know. It was like, it was, yes, but they weren't
in there or something.
Yes. And right. But they weren't a queer company, like, or anything. It was a performative measure to get queer folks to buy a sandwich.
Yeah.
It did not turn out the way they thought it was going to turn out, so it's just, I think the best advice I can give is if you're going to recognize something that's in a community outside of your own community, have people from that community double check what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like if anybody in Walmart had been like, is this a good idea? Everybody would have been like, no, don't do that. But they didn't double check it with somebody in a different community or experience. So just always double check from the community with what you're trying to connect with and see how you can help them in that specific month. If it feels like something you want to do and feels authentic to you, make sure it's authentic to them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, we had, I won't go too political. we had some flack a few months ago with some of the posts that we were pushing out on social media. Now, this was nothing. We were not focusing on anything. We were just talking about our business, the projects we were working on. But there was some flack with people, particularly over the Ukrainian crisis at the moment. Everyone knows what's going on over there. Yeah. But we didn't put any posts out about that. And we're not anti-Ukraine. It's just not like a focus. We're not a political company. We're not anything else. So we were putting our post about like, this is a project we're working on this week, and we got flack about saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be talking about business. This thing's going on in the world." I'm like, well, this thing going on here as well. Like, it's not negating what we're doing. We're not condoning what's going on over the other side. Right. It's just not our business, and we can't directly fix it or anything like that from what we're doing. And making some software for a game stream is not going to change. It's not going to change those changes. But I think you're right. There's definitely parts where there's a focal point of trying to kind of jump onto to a certain one. We've seen so many businesses change their logos to like Ukrainian flags, even though they still run business within Russia. And it's like, well, where do you stand here? There's only so much you can do. And I guess that's quite similar with some of the pride stuff. Or if you've got I think I seen one the other day, and I can't remember which company it was, but it was regarding pride and them changing some of their kind of logo colors within like the US Facebook accounts and UK Facebook accounts. But actually they operate in countries where it's illegal and they are not addressing it in any way, shape or form. They're saying, oh, we're really, anti this, but in the other countries, like, yeah, you're right, let's not do that. You kind of doubling yourself and saying like one thing and doing something else in the other way, to appease your business model rather than the clients or the customers.
Right. And there's like a big difference between like a small entity doing something that they are ignorant of and being corrected and being like, oh, I didn't know that. Let me change how I do things. And then a big company being like pride and then being like, hi, we discriminate against our queer folks, but we don't want people to know about it. Like that's a huge difference. And I think it's the willingness as a business owner to be like, oh, I totally effed that up. I will do better next time. Let me change my best practices. Like if nobody's ever said, hey, you should probably have pronouns on your inquiry form, just so you know, so that people feel safe if they are queer, and use gender in like non-gendered language. Like if you notice, I say human a lot. That took a lot of work of mine to try and change all of my like heteronormative speech. I still screw it up sometimes. Like I try very hard to use they when I don't know. I try very hard to use human or folks or gamers, like whatever, to try and be as inclusive as possible. Somebody will correct me. I'll be like, oh, thanks. And then I'll continue on. And I think it's important for us to do that as business owners, because the small business community is like growing traction, especially with like TikTok and how Instagram is and like YouTube, all of these things. We have a lot of power as these micro influencers. And so we can do some shifting. We can help with our little network and helping them learn and expand. Because I'm in Nebraska. Inclusivity is in my town a thing, but outside of my town, not so much. But if somebody's following me and I can educate them, then at least I'm doing something. And that I can do as a micro influencer. And if I grow to a like normal size influencer, then my audience is larger and I can change things. But like with the Ukraine conflict, I did say things. I do post in my stories, like those types of things, because that's where stories live. That's the kind of stuff that you'd put there. Just so people like knew, but that's mostly because we have friends from Ukraine and like I speak Russian. I don't want people to think because I speak Russian that I am pro Russia. Like that's a different, that's a thing.
I went to go meet one of my clients the first time I met them, a potential client at that stage. And I went to meet them and they were at a gym which we were working with. And she introduced herself and then she apologized. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? And she says, oh, you probably noticed I'm Russian. I'm like, okay. Like, she's not doing anything. like, shouldn't have to apologize because of your nationality. And but unfortunately, she felt that she needed to, and that's where we're at. And I don't know. I don't think everyone believes that every Russian's
right.
On the same path. The same way, not everyone in Nebraska is the exact same. Well, not everyone here is the exact same. People have their own beliefs or processes and whatnot. But she felt that she needed to apologize just for being Russian, and I thought that was a bit unfair for herself. But I don't know what what I can say, because it's, you know, she's feeling it more than I'm feeling it.
Right. And I mean, there is like a certain like people who have left Russia or, you know, are more in a like a Western mindset. There is like this kind of guilt, I guess, that they're carrying that does need to like be recognized. And I know like it feels weird that she felt like she had to apologize just for being who she is, especially if she's not even in Russia.
Well,
Like
she hasn't even been there for like 10 years.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
That feels, that's hard. But like the one thing that I've learned in the past couple of years is just acknowledging people's experiences and being like, okay, and how does that affect you here? Like when you're doing this, and just making sure that we are recognizing how people feel and how those experiences affect their day to day. Like we were talking about, I was like, what psychological status are they in? Like those types of things. Like obviously her identity as a Russian was affecting her day to day. And that's a part of her journey. So how is that affecting her business kind of thing? One of my clients, she talks about those intersectionalities of like who we are. Like there's more things that make us who we are than we give credit to. And those intersections are important to acknowledge. And yes, so that is definitely important. But that's also part of authenticity. Like, yeah, there are different things. Like I saw in a Facebook group the other day, somebody got their 23andMe back, or like their ancestry DNA test, and they like apologized for being German because of World War II. And I'm like, your family's from Germany like 300 years ago. Like that doesn't even count. Like we need to fix this. Like you don't need to apologize for having 3% German. And there's no need to apologize for being German. Like, it's okay. Like, that's normal.
You weren't doing it, or you weren't running it, or, you know.
And Germany today is not Germany back then. Like, it's a whole thing. Like people progress and evolve, just like businesses progress and evolve. And we need to acknowledge those changes. And that is the important part. I literally said that to a client yesterday. If you aren't changing and evolving, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I mean, you can't leave archaic code in something and expect it to work.
No, unfortunately, what happens is, I don't think always clients understand that either. Even though we go through that, you know, we built something 10 years ago, and they're like, "Oh, it's starting to not work." I'm like, "Well, it's 10 years old. Like, if you bought your washing machine, you wouldn't carry on expecting it to work forever. It has like a life expectancy, or it needs to be serviced, or it needs to be maintained, or, you know, parts changed, or whatever else." It's same with anything else, whether it's a strategy, whether it's a website, whether it's anything else. It needs constant maintenance, or maybe not constant, but it needs maintenance.
Right, exactly. Same thing with your business.
Yeah, I think we're coming to the end, but what we're really good, and you were talking a little bit about the some of the materials that you offer as well, particularly for some of the startups or whatever. Mm-hmm. Do you want to put a link in the comments for anyone that's
sure,
or catches back on YouTube or whatever, and people can follow it and have a look?
Yes, I just got to figure out how to put it in the comments.
Don't worry, if you ping it over to me, I'll put it in the comments. But
okay.
I think it's in the right hand side. There might be on the right hand side of this stream system like a comment section. Maybe it's just private chat or comments. I'm not sure what's on.
On. The private chat let me talk. I can put it in the. I'll go back through and put it in the chat. I have our Facebook Live already on, so nice. I will put it in here. But it's been great chatting with you.
You too, and you have much more of a knack of wake up in the morning, and you said this is pretty much your normal cycle to get up. I don't know whether it's still some of the game relevance in me, but I don't even really get to sleep until like 1-2 o'clock in the morning. Just trying to switch it off.
For reference, I go to bed at 8 o'clock. So I mean,
I get home about 8 o'clock from the office. It's very different.
I work from home, so my commute is kind of short.
I like it. Yeah. Well, we've got our office now. We worked for home for a while, but we were a couple of us. We just found it hard, particularly with coding. We were like, "Oh, can you help with X?" And really, you have to set up Zoom calls and share screens. Just look at my PC. Here it is. Job done. Yeah. Nice and easy. But yeah, it was really good chatting with you today, Molly. And I think it's really important where people are trying to focus on their brand, their authenticity, their next step strategies and everything else. So what would you say is your ideal client, those neurodiverse people that are looking at kind of really reviewing what their strategy is and trying to get some support?
So if you are super busy and overwhelmed, you're neurodivergent, just come see me and see if we're a good fit, because we work with all different types of business types. It's really more of the who you are as a person that is our ideal client. And if you like to be more casual, you need somebody helping with your automations, then we're probably your people.
That's really good. That's really good. Right, I will call it a day. I'll repost that because when I post, I think it goes to a few different YouTube and anywhere else. I think we've got it on LinkedIn and YouTube at the moment. We're streaming it, so that'll post into the other places people can find that whenever they do so wish. But yeah, really good to speak to you today, and hopefully we'll catch up again, and maybe we'll come back on in the future for more updates or anything else that we want to discuss.
Sure, anytime. All right.
Right. All right, guys. That's everything for today. So we had Molly over from actually, what is this name of your business? Just Molly Hicks, or?
Yeah.
Nice and easy. Molly from Molly Hicks has come over today. Joined us all the way over from Nebraska to talk about brand strategy. And that's it for today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ping them afterwards. And there's a link over for Molly's website if you want to get in touch or look at some of the material that's also posted on there to help businesses. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll be back next Thursday with another guest. Thank you.